Yep.
Yeah, no, but
do you want to know what I had for breakfast?
It was with this like little the voice. So we'll start recording. It'll be belting and bellowing.
I had a banana. Isn't that really boring?
It's exciting.
Yeah, I
Very
don't even believe
healthy.
you.
Well, I always get laughed at for what I have for breakfast.
What do you?
Which is
I had
what?
a piece of quiche. And
I
it's
love
quiche,
it.
but it's eggs and pastry, and that's what lots of people have for breakfast.
No one has eggs and
I think
pastry
people
for
are
breakfast.
jealous of that.
I just heard someone's stomach rumble.
It wasn't.
Did you?
Yeah, obviously thinking about quiche.
Think about
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like this or something. Good. Hey, all right then. Shall we actually start? Good. Hey, welcome back to the studio, everyone. After a nice bit of time wandering the Nordics, we're back in the lovely studio with lovely people. So let's just say hello. Ian from Internet Retailing.
Vera from Salesforce.
Rhea from Beyond Retro.
Rachel from Radley.
David from Decker's Brands.
David from Decker's Brands. All right, you went last, David, so the last shall become first. Hello. Now, just in case anyone hasn't heard you speaking at our events, read about you in the magazine, just tell us about Decker's and the brand that actually everyone's heard about, not Decker's itself.
So Decker's Brands, a US company. We've got several brands that are under our portfolio, but the one that everyone knows is UGG, famous for its boots and other product.
Right. And they're like crack cocaine for young people who insist on wearing them everywhere.
They certainly are.
So there's UGG the phenomenon. What about the other things in there as well?
So we have other brands. We have a brand called Hoka, which is growing very fast, one of the biggest, fastest running shoe brands that are out there at the moment.
Yeah.
Very much around the marathon community, but it's coming out there soon, so look out for that. And we have the ever-stable Teva brand, known for its sandals.
Can't argue with that. Now, listen, we haven't seen you for a while because you've been globe-trotting. So tell us about your role, because you were elevated from merely single-channel e-com and now bestride the world like a multi-channel colossus. So just give us a thumbnail of what you've been up to.
Well, it's been an interesting ride with Decker's. I mean, first of all, I was given the great opportunity of managing the Japanese e-commerce business, which was a great opportunity to understand a different region and eat its lovely fish. I've also recently I took on the retail business for Europe as well, and again, that's a great opportunity to try and pull e-commerce and retail together as channels, for as we know, consumers see them as one.
And so just enlighten us as to, what was the difficult part of that? I'm not sure there are many, but, we all talk about omni-channel as if somehow, we're dragging these stores to a digital way, but you were already digital now saying, well, sort the stores out as well. So what was the challenge for you in bringing those together?
The interesting thing about the channels is once you start going into them, the things that drives the people within each channel is relatively similar. We just go about them in slightly different ways, and I'm talking about the people here. There are people in our stores who love the brand, who are able to really merchandise and sell that story to consumers, and that's what we try and do online through technology or other means. So it's very, very little difference there. We're all trying to get new customers into our stores, new customers online, and hopefully the same customers. You're driven by the same things. I think the most interesting thing, and what I'm hoping to try and pull together, is the online traders who are working in that world all the time, looking at personalization technologies. How can you pull some of the experience and great things you have in store into that online experience? And I think that's an area of ground that some retailers do well. It's a real big struggle.
But when you say the online experience, I don't want to denigrate anybody, but online tends to be two-dimensional, pile of thumbnails in a grid, click, buy, discount, job done.
Yes.
Whereas you've been investing a lot in pretty posh stores where, the UGG boot can be resplendent in its own space. What is that experience? What are you aiming for, especially in your flagships?
The flagships are so important, especially these days. They are the physical location where people feel your brand. And when you're a direct-to-consumer brand, they're really important. That's every element of it, from walking into the store to the way it's merchandised, to some of the fit-outs, the capabilities that are there, have to ooze the essence of the brand. And And as I said, that's very difficult to put online with the thumbnails, etc. So it's trying to align those two is what we're striving to achieve. But that comes around, how do consumers come into your brand on the website? What content do they see? What experiences do they see before they do get to that more transactional element? But those stores take a long time to refit, to really get that brand essence in there.
Okay, so you've got these great stores. What's the difference between stores in the UK and Japan then? Is that a universal?
Stores in Japan and the UK, there's a lot of similarities there. You're still trying to get across the brand in the same way. The consumers actually interact in very much the same way in the stores, in the same need to tell the stories to the consumers, the same type of product that's there. I think when it starts coming into the interactions, certainly between the store staff, there are different differences there, just the cultural differences that you have there. We're obviously a little bit more forward in the UK than they are over there, a lot more reserved. And then compared to the US, where it's very much more customer service focused. So each location differs. From a website point of view, I can probably talk about that. That's obviously an area that I was focusing much more with in Japan. Yeah. It's all the subtle differences. People are still using mobiles. They still want their own payment types. They still want the information that we need to have there. But I think it's the little subtle differences, like, as I said, they're still very traditional, still love cash on delivery as a payment option, and incredibly important to get done there. There's very little fraud over there. Consumers just...
Really?
Yeah.
Too polite to steal.
Too polite to steal. Yeah. Low return rates. I think there are cultural acceptances there that are very different to us, and our desire to, send trucks back and forth with product in UK and Europe.
Wow.
Out of interest, what were some of the learning curves for you going into Japan? What you would do differently now?
I think a lot of it is if you end up working with a different culture, is respecting that culture, respecting how decision flows are made, accepting that the Japanese culture is to do things thoroughly, hierarchically, but once you get that commitment, they throw everything at it and do an amazing job. But it's being able to work within that world when we're in the world with the US. We work for a US company, which is very much about agile methodology, moving quickly and testing, measuring. It's a little bit different over there. But once you get that going, it's an amazing thing. Even small things like just a story when you're meeting the vendors over there, and obviously it's a very traditional culture when you don't have your business card. So I had some meetings where I forgot my business card, and I was looked upon with horror by not having that the differential, handing the business card over, and it definitely had an effect on the meeting. So you just have to be really respectful of every market you go to.
So you're bridging these different cultures. So you're sitting at head office, you're thinking there's the UK, European, Japanese, US way, but the brand is a constant globally.
Yeah.
What about the people? So you've mentioned the culture, but is there much mobility? I know you pick someone up and send them to Japan to help set up Japan, or do people move within the company? And what about the skills across the business? So two questions rudely jammed into one. Let's start off about how much mobility there is across the regions for staff.
Deckers is really committed to allowing staff to move here and there, and we sometimes have someone over in our office from the US office at the moment for 6 weeks, spending time with us. Our director of technology is now in Japan for 2 months. So there's lots of moving around to try and get people to understand that business, because you can't be truly global if you don't do that. Our head office is in Santa Barbara, California, so I think most people spend their time itching to try and to get a role there. But I think the company's progressing enough that digital technology, which is, when it's good and it's in your company and you want it to progress, you've got to allow these opportunities.
And what about skills then? We were talking earlier on, Vera, about the skills needed to run not only the digital and multi-channel technologies, but also to operate in a global business. So is there a skills shortage? If so, where? If not, where you find these wonderful people?
It goes back to what I was just saying, actually. I think that I don't necessarily think there's as much of a skills shortage as it felt there used to be. Certainly in some areas, I think it's about retaining those skills, those people in your business is the tough one, because it's such a fluid world of moving around. So if it had been a few years ago, if I was looking for developers for our web team, it would have been, it was really tricky to find them. And now they're I'd say dime a dozen. They're not dime a dozen, but they're a lot easier to find. People are working in an agile methodology more. There are more product owners out there. There's just more of these roles there that they are coming in. I think where it gets a little bit more tricky is when you're trying to meet the traditional retail or wholesale world and trying to get people to move across, and likewise the other way. I think that's where we need to invest more of our effort, and that's really about, I guess, a digital mindset in more of us older folks in the business and truly understanding it.
If we think about skill sets, you also just mentioned earlier, you're very open for someone working in different offices. What about flexible working or any other incentives you're offering to your staff?
Well, Deckers is a global business and has regions in, it's got China, UK, Europe, obviously, Japan and the US. So there is a need when you're working on global projects to be flexible. And I think we really are looking at that. Core hours, 10 till 4, really important to us. So we allow our team to come in and work late because they need to be on calls. And when you're working in an agile world, doing sprints with the US, you need to be there at the same time as them. So it's a great retention tool if you're able to do that. I just don't think that the traditional 9 to 5 situation works anymore, especially in the world of digital.
And let's ask you to pull out your crystal ball and just think about brands. I mean, you've had a lot of experience with a variety of brands, taking them direct to consumer. We're seeing that the real energy and growth at the moment is brands going straight to consumer, across all channels, maybe cutting out the retail. So you've got a retail wholesale business, direct to consumer. Crystal ball time, looking ahead 3-4 years, are you seeing that your direct channel will be more important to you than wholesale?
Deckers is still predominantly a wholesale business, and I think all the channels are important. I know it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but you're being direct to consumer, being the brand is incredibly important to help grow the brand, to help take risks, show new products, differentiate products. That's really important to us. But there are still wholesale partners out there that we need who have the volume, who are able to position us with the right consumers that we as a brand cannot reach. Whether it's younger consumers, whether it's affluent consumers in other countries, they're incredibly important to us. And I think that will always continue. Now, what will happen out there maybe with the multi-brand retailers and how many are there in 4 or 5 years is going to be different. So that mix will shift. But you also have to consider the pure plays as well and their marketplaces and what's happening there as well. I think we're just seeing a shift in the number of retailers out there. But I always think the wholesale channel will be important for most brands.
Great. That's a good bit of crystal balling, new verb. Before we let you off the hook, as you survey your executive diary for the rest of the year, anything sticking out, cunning project that you're actually really excited to do? Exciting projects for us at the moment, not quite at the moment. I think we have a major replatforming going on at the moment that we're very excited to complete next month, and I think it's really going to be focusing on for the team that new world of being faster, more agile, and just being able to do things faster, more quickly. Right. Next year is all the exciting, innovative stuff. That's when the brakes are off, is it? That's when the brakes are off. All bets so you're the first person who's done the darkest before the dawn kind of the thing for the rest of the year. Well, look, David, enjoy the shoveling and pickaxing to get the platform in place. Thanks for that. You're not going anywhere because we've locked the door, of course, but we are shifting attention now to Rhea. Rhea, welcome. Now, head of e-commerce for Beyond Retro. So just tell us a bit about Beyond Retro and how it started.
So Beyond Retro, for those that haven't heard of us, we sell vintage clothing. And we sell in the UK, we have stores, and in Sweden we have stores, and obviously we have an online presence. So we can sell to the whole world. So when you say vintage, we're not talking about Victorian waistcoats and whalebone corsets. So when does vintage start? We would sell whalebone corsets and things like that if we could get our hands on them, but that's kind of a really rare thing to be able to find. So vintage, really we sell product from the 60s through to the 90s and the noughties now. So when we say vintage, we're actually talking a lot of the time about secondhand clothing. So we don't kind of sell things that you might have bought recently in H&M or Topshop, but we will sell something that's perhaps kind of only 10 years old.
Just tell me then about the style selection, because not every 10 or 20-year-old product is now fashionable, desirable. I've proven to my kids that I'm incapable of saying which one is or isn't. So how do you pick the things that qualify as vintage versus the things that should be just recycled and, save the planet?
So in that sense, we're actually quite similar to a lot of kind of more normal fashion businesses. So we have a buying team and we have trend reports. So seasonally, we report back to our pickers who are based all over the world on what the trends are and what they should be looking out for, what we predict we're going to sell based on trend forecasts and also previous year sales data. And as well as that, we're always looking for key vintage pieces. So we always know we want to look for vintage Levi's. We've always got certain types of clothing, like 70s metal zipper dresses, things like that, that we constantly train our kind of selection teams to look out for. So there's, it's a mix of really kind of trend-driven buying and traditional vintage buying as well.
And how often are these trends changing? Twice a year, 4 times a year, or can't you say really?
So it's seasonal. It really follows high street trends. We might move a tiny bit slower than the high street sometimes, but generally the kind of trends that you're seeing on the high street, whether it be sportswear, kind of festival trends, we're following the exact same things. So we have a trend calendar just like kind of most high street fashion businesses that we have to follow. And there's a percentage of our customer who shop that way. And it influences most people's buying behaviour, actually, whether they realise it or not.
So tell us a bit about these pickers then, because if you were a normal retailer, you'd put in an order, you'd manufacture things, you say, that's a style, I have 10,000 of them. In your case, you'd be saying, here's a style, dispatch the pickers. Now, are they grabbing clothes off old people's backs or raiding their local Oxfam? How do you manage, A, to get to deploy them, and B, to then manage your supply side?
So there are rag houses all over the world.
So what is a rag house? That sounds like, somewhere at a crossroads in a dusty area. What is a rag house?
It does, doesn't it? So they're a huge, they're called rag houses. They're huge warehouses. Lots of them are in North America. Some of them are in the Middle East, India, so really all over the world. And they're, enormous warehouses that secondhand clothing basically kind of ends up in. So when it's been through its secondhand life cycle, wherever that started, it ends up in rag houses. And when I say rag houses, I do mean sometimes rag. Sometimes it's hospital rag, sometimes it's military rag, sometimes it is just secondhand clothing.
You're not painting a nice picture.
Yeah, and these, tens of thousands of square feet's worth of kind of rag moving around, and they're actually they're really robust facilities. So don't kind of, imagine that people are drowning under piles of clothing as they pick. But we have teams of pickers based in certain rag houses around the world. And we train them and we communicate with them all the time as to kind of what we're looking for, what we need in terms of quantity, style. And then, it gets graded, and the stuff that is good enough and we deem a high enough grade to sell, we buy.
Wow. And what's the cycle on this then? So, are people having sort of CIA-style headsets and night vision goggles, and you're sending out an instruction for 8.5 tons of Levi's, is all completed in 3 minutes? Or is this a 3-month cycle? I mean, I just can't quite imagine the sort of management operational side of, the rag houses at the end of the universe.
No, it's a long cycle. So we actually think really far ahead. We've got a really amazing data and analysis system that helps our buying team here in the UK know what we need kind of 12 and even further than 12 months ahead. So and obviously all of this stuff is shipped like on water. So it takes actually a long time to move the product around the world to where we need it to end up, whether that's in the UK or Sweden or online. So we use Google Hangouts most of the time, to be honest. We spend, our buying team spend a lot of time talking to the picking teams around the world. We look a lot of the product on the screen through Hangouts, and also our buying team travel. So they're on the road a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the environmental impact. Again, I'm just trying to understand this. On the one hand, I'm thinking things get a final life and, that's obviously good. But yet there's a lot of transportation. So to get to this end of the universe rag house, I assume it's notched up quite a few air miles to get there, and then we bring it back. So is there an environmental argument, or is that not a driver? It's just finding good clothes wherever they may be?
No, I mean, that's a really good question. Sustainability is really at the core of everything we do as a business. So our founder, Stephen, that's his MO. He wants to close the loop on fashion. He wants people to be able to shop in a more sustainable way. And so everything we do, we think about our impact. So we don't actually fly anything anywhere. We ship, everything moves on water. We don't ship unless we're filling containers. We don't move anything around actually between any of our businesses unless we're moving as much as we can and, kind of as the best way we possibly can. So hopefully it's, as sustainable as it can be.
I did a little bit of research and I came across your great brand Label. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Label is an amazing team we have of designers and kind of seamstresses. Is that the right word?
I'm sure there must be a gender neutral
Wrong word.
Seamsters.
Tailors.
Anyway, carry on.
And they actually take product that can't be resold and rework it into pieces that can. So we use a lot of that skill to fill gaps that we can't fill with vintage products. So we might know that we can't find enough of a certain grade of denim shorts, for example. So they'll take jeans that can't be sold and aren't a good enough grade, and they'll rework them into denim shorts, or they'll do the same. They'll take a shirt and rework it into a bag that would fill a gap in our product range. So, really amazing stuff.
So from an e-com perspective then, where everybody expects that everything's available all the time, given your unmanageable in some ways buying cycle, and then the delays from batching product until it's environmental to ship it, managing availability and stock and range on the website sounds to me like a nightmare problem I wouldn't like to have. How do you manage that?
We just manage it with data. Honestly, we think really far ahead, and we forecast to the nth degree what we should be able to sell and what we hope to sell. But as you say, it's not anybody's dream. There's no kind of perfect answers to it. So it is a challenge, that's for sure. But it's a really exciting challenge. Yeah.
So how do you fit in with style makers? So we hear a lot about Instagram and visual social media driving not just a trend, but multiple parallel trends. I see my kids buying and selling things I'm too fat to wear on Depop and calling it vintage, when in fact it's just old stuff. So there seems to be this vintage awareness, but also massive amounts of style awareness. So do you have data on that, or are you having to take a punt and put a finger in the air or set styles?
Yeah, we have data on that. And as I said, a lot of it's just driven from trend forecasting. So in fact, it's just way more style driven than most people assume our businesses. And the nice thing is, I think that now, there was a day where we would turn up to a party probably wearing the same dress as someone else. But the high street is so vast now. and people have the option to shop vintage or secondhand. And actually, you kind of, we're in London, so it's a bit more extreme, but you only have to walk down the street to see that everybody is so much more unique than we were kind of 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that's what people want. People really don't want to look like everyone else. We all want to follow the right, a style. We know what fashion is.
So similar but different.
Yeah, exactly.
But we recently released our analyst sector report on fast fashion. The things that struck me about it were, firstly, the massive pressure on supply chain excellence. It was extraordinary. And then the other one was on the incredible range. But it leads towards a lot of criticism for disposable consumption, economic impact. So it seems like you're trying to straddle both things where the customers have choice, but without the environmental impact of fast fashion. Is that fair, or am I just romanticising that?
No, that's absolutely fair. I mean, the great thing about shopping vintage and secondhand is you do get that feel-good factor. You're not contributing to this fast fashion economy that we all know now is so detrimental. So it's always kind of been, as I said, it's kind of the ethos of what we do. But now it's a real consideration for your normal high street shopper.
Right.
So everybody knows that buying fast fashion, often buying cheap, throwing it away and not knowing where it ends up is not a good thing. And it's not a sustainable thing. So yeah, we're absolutely, it's great that we can help people shop sustainably. We can help educate people. They can feel okay about their purchasing decisions.
Great.
Yeah, it's great.
Now, one thing, I'm sure you thought I'd let it slip, but it was UK and Sweden. So just tell me about the link. In my mind, I'm thinking about leather trench coats and heavy metal T-shirts. I know last time you said that was just a terrible, cliched misrepresentation. So what is it about UK plus Sweden on this, alliance for sustainable vintage fashion?
Yeah, I mean, we just, the company saw an opportunity in Sweden and took it. So it's kind of twofold, really, because in Sweden, there was a real demand for vintage fashion. And at the time, I believe it was very different to it is now. I think it was kind of 60s. They were looking for the mod 50s and 60s style fashion. And, there was a gap in the market for it. So we filled it. But actually, in parallel to that, Sweden have always been excellent at shopping in a sustainable way. They really care a lot about their environment. They've kind of been years ahead of the UK in how they shop. And secondhand shopping is much more of a norm for them. So they'll, on their high street, they'll kind of go to H&M and they'll go to Beyond Retro. And they're not particularly concerned.
And there's nothing else in between.
Yeah, I mean, so it fits their market really well. And
great.
We're really successful. And now, it's less kind of 60s, it's more sportswear, high quality denim that they're looking for in the vintage world. But yeah, they're a great market for us.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You obviously have an online presence. The world is your oyster in that regard. You mentioned Sweden. What's next? I'm just thinking Berlin. There's loads of people in vintage clothing in Berlin.
Yes, we love Berlin. Well, so we've got quite aggressive expansion plans. Next, we'll probably still be in the Nordic region, but definitely over the kind of next few years, we do plan to open a good number of stores. Yeah,
so you're a lead with stores or use online to gauge demand?
We do use online to gauge demand. So we take a lot of data from our online analytics, which helps inform kind of our store, our brick strategy. But yeah, online, we have a big push to help. So Sweden are obviously a big customer of ours online because they really know the brand, but we have to make it easier for them to shop with better shipping offers, easier returns, things like that. And
so unlike the Japanese, they do return then?
They do, yeah, still not as much as, the UK, we are crazy returners, I think. But actually, Germany is a really big emerging market for us online.
I just wanted to say, if you don't want to go to a country with loads of returns, don't go to Germany, because Germans love returns.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good to know. And America as well. We get a lot of orders from America.
Right.
And that's something, I don't think we plan to open stores in America in the near future. So that will be completely an online strategy for us as we try and grow that market.
Touching on the near future then, David's busy getting his platform ready. What does the rest of the year have for you? What's exciting you as you prep for this aggressive next phase?
Yeah, so big focus on regions, as we were just discussing for us. But also we have, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to actually talk about it. But we
no one's listening.
A really
no one's listening.
exciting
just
project. Yeah, coming up. And it will launch this year, so we'll probably launch Q4, maybe
You're just teasing us now.
But we're really going to close the loop on fashion.
I reckon this is just a blatant ploy to come
get me
back. Come back. Yeah. That's it. Consider the date. Before we go, it's the Antiques Roadshow question. What happens when one of your pickers finds, I don't know, Elvis's jeans or a vintage Chanel twin set? Does that ever happen? Or
yeah, a lot. I mean, probably weekly. So yeah, no. I mean, I wish we found more Chanel twin sets. That would be amazing. But we find amazing stuff all the time. Most of it actually lives in our archive here in London, and we use the archive to train staff. We allow designers to come in, and also people can, collectors can come and purchase from our archive. So some of it ends up in stores, some of it ends up online.
Wow.
But they're really, really special pieces.
So, hey, I think we need to come and have a little visit with the camera to have a look at the vintage stuff.
Definitely.
And up our fashion credentials, even if in my case it is definitely 40 years out of date. So for once, you might even be on trend. Hera, thanks so much. But let's now turn our heads towards Rachel. So we've done feet, which are now covered in furry Uggs, clothed ourselves in vintage. We need now a bag. So Rachel, you are Ms. Radley in some respects. Tell us about Radley and your role, please.
Radley, I went there last August. Bit of a departure for me. I'd worked in accessories before, but jewellery. So yeah, handbags, like you say, it's the ultimate accessory. A really lovely brand, so nice heritage, but it's only been around about 20 years, which I think most people don't realise. And it really had that brand recognition when I went there. And everybody, even like things like taxi drivers, were saying, the one with the dog. Yeah, the one with the dog.
And it's in case anybody doesn't know, the dog is the one that's like on the shortbread, isn't it?
Yes. So it's a Highland Terrier. It's a little black Scotty dog called Radley. And the background to that is Laura Harder, who was the founder of the brand back in Camden Lock about 20 years ago. She'd seen a dog walker in a black coat with a red hat, and the dog had a matching lead. And it was really all about quirky handbags and a little bit eccentric. So sort of very safe and sensible for a lot of people as a bag choice, but also it's always got this little quirky element, and it's a really playful brand in that way.
So who is your average buyer? Who is the loyal Radley customer?
It really varies. And actually, I think we've got two different streams. And I think because it is sort of been around for about 20 years, we're now getting a sort of younger consumer again. Because I think previously it was a little bit older and it was the disposable income bracket. So, women in their 40s, lots of people buy it for a work bag. But now you're getting sort of a lot more of a younger market. There's some really quirky styles. So our picture bags are a really big seller and they're quite collectible. So we did a big one last year for the 20th birthday. And we do one every year, sort of Chinese New Year. And we've got quite a lot of collectors. So there's quite a diverse mix of people. So, I know friends of mine that bought them just for their work bag. And yet I know other people that it's their sort of prized possession. So it's a really diverse mix and definitely getting younger, I think. I think there's more people looking to invest. And I think, just as Rhea said about sort of the sustainability, people are looking more to invest in a good handbag at a younger age.
Looking at the younger generations, how do you reach them? What's your way to communicate?
We're definitely starting to do more on social media, more on influencers. Instagram's quite a big channel, I think, because it's so visual. For us, that's a big key one. And I think as well, very much word of mouth. I think particularly with something like a handbag that you carry every day, people really do talk about it. So for us, I think social media is definitely something we're looking to explore more and more. And also everyone had the sort of GDPR fun last year where we all had to go down the route of what we did about email and things. And social is sort of slightly less constraining in a way. It still feels slightly more organic. And it kind of gives us a bit more dialogue. So, and the other thing we're doing a lot more is sort of brand ambassadors. We were really lucky recently to work with Johanna Konta, with Wimbledon, and that was really exciting. And it was really exciting for everyone at the brand as well, and she was a brilliant part of the story. And, this idea of women of spirit and substance who've really got something to say and something to do. So I think, there's definitely ways that we're kind of starting to communicate the brand differently. And bring it to life again. And I think probably that's part of the Radley journey. I think we did it in the beginning, and I think that's where it's going back to.
Great.
So what's the difference between an influencer and an ambassador?
I mean, there is obviously, I suppose, the paid element and the kind of public recognition piece. And I think I've always been a big advocate of things like referral marketing, the idea that, people just talk to each other. The ambassador for us was more about pitching the bags differently. So to be able to show them in more of a different situation, so to actually have Johanna Konta take out a Radley bag onto Centre Court Wimbledon, I mean, we were so excited. We were sat there in the office, spotting it on the screen, and I think that's the real life use of the bag, and I think it brings it to life in a different way. And I think influencers is about more of a real life dynamic. But for us, it's just opening up a different conversation, I think.
So I know you've only been there since August, but can you sketch the journey from Camden Lock stall to Posh store?
I don't know. I'm qualified quite to tell the whole story, but I think, for us, definitely wholesale's been a big part of that, and department stores. And, we've got our flagship, like David mentioned, we've got flagship stores. Our one in Floral Street is a big part of the piece. And I think department stores for us regionally are quite important. And again, that's about people being able to go to touch and feel the product. And online. I think online, particularly internationally, is key. And I think there's a real appetite internationally for British brands, and particularly sort of heritage brands like ours. Although it's a relatively infantile brand, it's got that feel
young
of
heritage.
A young heritage. And I think that's the authenticity piece that brings the heritage. It's got a true story behind it. So definitely globally, I think wholesale's been a big part. So, when you're in QVC in the US or Macy's, those kind of retailers really advocate for brands like ours, and that's what makes them great. And it does give us some traction. It does take us new audiences, but there's always that challenge of then converting them to be a brand customer rather than.
So let's maybe look at that, because I know when I was doing work with House of Fraser, Radley was a hot concession and added to the House of Fraser mix. But there's always a balance between, who's helping whom, who's piggybacking of whose brand. So, when you look at the balance of wholesale versus direct, are you like Diplomatic David saying they'll all coexist in a happy way forever? Or is there a trend one way? Or
I think they coexist to a point, but I think as a brand, I mean, it's our in-house design team that ultimately drive the story. And it is things like our marketing campaigns and the ambassadors we choose to work with that drive the brand equity that then the department stores need. So I think although they coexist, I think, we all know that the department stores have overall struggled. And I think that is because generally people are looking more for brands and that identity. And particularly the millennial market, they really want, what they wear and what they carry to talk about their identity. So I think we're all kind of going through a bit of a, as mentioned earlier, brand reclamation when we were talking about the fact that department stores are retailers, but we're the brands. And I think they've all helped us get on a journey in terms of how we sell. So, the department stores are so instrumental in terms of how we do omnichannel and how we sell online and all the developments that have come through. House of Fraser and John Lewis were ahead of all of us on that. But I think now we're all starting to catch up. And so it's a bit more of an equitable playing field. But there'll always be the piece for us, I think, as a brand that, we're a privately owned company. And I think definitely it's two different models. Wholesale, everyone gets the money up front. And I think that's a big piece for any retailer out there. And we'd all be lying if we didn't say that everybody was looking at the bottom line all the time.
But one of the things about department stores where you can come into conflict with brands is the discount strategy. So over the last decade, we've seen red crosses, blue crosses, customers don't get out of bed if it's only 50% off, I'll wait till the 70%. So part of this reclaiming the brand must also be reclaiming your pricing and discount structure when you're not within the context of a department store's seasonality and cash demands.
Definitely. I think we have really consciously, since I've been there, really been looking at how we show the value of the product. And I think, again, this is where some of the social media strategy comes in, making the product desirable again, because I think we'd all gone down this route, partly led by the department stores, that was price wars. And actually, it was really damaging for everybody as a brand and as consumers, because I think no one was ever satisfied with their purchase because everyone was looking out for the next offer. And actually, we all used to love shopping online. You get your pass and it's really exciting. And now there was almost this awareness of price that was almost killing the retail journey for everybody, including consumers. So it's been really nice to be part of this journey at Radley, that we're really into brand elevation. And it's really about the brand again, which it has been difficult. But I think because of some of the issues with the department stores and because they've been so publicly in the press, I think it's been easier for us all to do and to make that break and not to be so led anymore by their strategies and actually to develop our own.
On a more cheery note, you said playful. Yeah. So I can see the little dog. I don't really get handbags. How would I identify the playfulness in the brand? How does it take form that I could recognise?
There is always a quirky element to all the bags. There really is. Everyone, they will have a little dog. We actually have a series of picture bags that are extremely playful. So they've got, designs all over them. And those are fascinating. There's a video we've got that shows, there's about 30 pairs of hands handle a picture bag. And they've got, beautiful detail in them. And they tell a bit of a story. It might be a quirky colour. It might be a quirky lining. I love all my Radley bags that have random hidden pockets. For me, I've always got travel passes or things shoved in a pocket. So for me, it's about that element. But I think it's also about different consumers. So everyone finds something different depending on who they are. So I think, even if it's a sensible work bag, just the fact it has a dog on it is, or your laptop bag and it's got a little dog charm, I think makes it that little bit more personable.
Fine, I can feel our listener groaning at me not getting that. So apologies. But now you are not normal in the nicest way because most of the heads of e-commerce we see have come up from a marketing background. A smaller number have come from a technology background, but you are an out-and-out merchandiser. So tell us about that move from merchandising to owning the online channel. And do you think that's different? It gives you a different perspective than if you'd come from the marketing tradition?
I suppose it does. I mean, I took a long time before I was confident to say that I was a digital marketer because, like you say, my background was pure retail. And I started off back in the day at Bay Trading and, merch admin and my spreadsheets and managing stock and flow. And I mean, I was really lucky because I was actually at Tesco's at a point where they were sort of taking on the world and I moved into online. But I did it again through merchandising. I did it through commercial stock packages and which stock we were going to have to launch the website. I think I've been really lucky timing-wise, definitely. I think I've been able to see a lot of the developments through. So, we're looking to re-platform at Radley in the next few months. And actually, I didn't realise I'd done a re-platform. I did it back in 2014 and we did it from scratch and we built a lot of it ourselves and we had to spec it out ourselves. But, coming from a merchandising background, it's always been about retail first. So I suppose I am lucky in the sense of, everyone's talking about customer experience and those kind of things in the moment. And in some ways, I've always done that because I've just been a retailer first rather than had to sort of adapt a digital marketing mindset. So it's always been about customers probably rather than traffic for me, which makes it a little bit easier. And so I think I've always been the one asking IT difficult questions from a retailer's perspective rather than from a techie perspective.
Right, general nodding around the table. So you're a niche brand looking to grow. They drop you an email saying, what would be your top tip? A young heritage brand growing. What do you suggest they focus on?
I don't think my CEO will want to hear this, but I almost think there's an element of ignoring the competition. I think, there's this thing about having a unique selling point, and cultivate your own discussions. Because I think, I've worked in the luxury sector, and I think that was one of my frustrations, was probably the fact that we spent a lot of time whenever I suggested doing something digitally or someone came up with a brilliant idea, this idea of, but who else is doing it? And I think where all the brands that are really succeeding at the moment, they've all got a USP that no one else has got. And if we all sort of follow the competition, and that's what the department stores did, that's how they struggled with the promotional strategy, and I think it's about finding your talking point and your customers.
It's interesting you're mentioning that we have a smaller luxury brand, but they say they're much more agile and they actually don't follow the competition, and they partnered with sports brands, so they created their own different products together with them, and they said that actually gave them the opportunity first to go after the younger audience, but also they went ahead of the game, and then after that it seemed like the bigger ones in verticommerce tried to copy them. So it's interesting that you're mentioning that. That's good.
I think I learned that a lot when I was in the jewelry sector, and I think we were I was working for H. Samuel for a number of years, and it was different because we didn't really look at the competition, and maybe that's because it was slower turning product. We almost didn't need to, and you were it was a needs-based purchase. You wanted a watch or you wanted an engagement ring because you were going to propose. So there was a reason to buy that was unique to your business, that as long as you fulfilled that customer need, and then you didn't need to. And then that's where the exciting developments in tech come from as well, when you actually just meet something that's unique to your business.
So we're looking forward to see that journey.
I'm really excited actually with Radley, because I think the re-platform is our opportunity to kind of rewrite the rule book a little bit. And as David said earlier, it's about making the teams more agile, and there's so much more tech out there that will just make all of our lives easier as well as make it better for customers.
Great. Well, look, on that positive note, the clock has run away with us, so we need to bid farewell to our listener for this month. Vera, thank you so much for being with us. Rhea, Rachel, David, thank you very much. Until next time, until Rhea, you come back and tell us what your secret project was. Thank you all. Ta-da! There you are. How was that? Not too bad. Good. So what didn't we cover off? Was there anything we didn't cover off?
We could have gone for another hour, couldn't we? Once we got into it, we could have gotten loads.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
It's really interesting. Like, loads about rag houses.
Yeah.
I know.
And pickers.
Rag houses and pickers. That's the sort of a millennial
Is it
job,
someone's
isn't it?
full-time job? Or is it like a student doing it on the side?
No, full-time jobs.
Wow.
They must be quite committed though. So you don't just walk in and.
I think you need to have a passion about it.
She must have to
More
love
important,
it,
you
yes.
can tell us now, can't you? Now you're not on the podcast. Come on, what are you doing? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I have to confess, I've never met a picker. I mean, they are all over the world.
But they do exist.
Yeah,
And how many
I've
are
seen
there?
them on the screen talking to our head of buying and our buying team.
Yeah.
How many? Probably like, I don't know, maybe around 100, if not more.
Wow. That's
Well, I
extraordinary.
guess you'd need it, wouldn't you? I suppose.
You need to be quick as well with those
Well, we have
plans.
Yeah.
to say to
How
them.
many stores have you got?
So 5, 6, 9 stores. So we have to say to
9
them,
stores.
we
plus an
need
website.
6,000 pairs of Levi's, not just jeans, like
Find
Specific.
everyone.
blue
Yeah.
Levi's 501s even.
We think
Oh
we
my
have
God,
problems trying to
it's the
get
first
an
job.
order
I
of
want it
6,000 through. You know, get out of the
Are they
QC.
fighting off other people? Do they have like pike staffs?
That's
They're
what I've wondered,
stopping other
yeah.
pickers.
I think
I
they
don't
must.
know. I don't
They must
know.
get
Do they get
Quite
permission?
competitive,
That would
surely.
be also interesting how they, if they get a Levi's, will they get...
But is it like some sort of mafia union where you pass the job on from father to son with the pike staff of picking?
I'll put you in touch with our founder, because he can answer all of these and he's so interesting.
All right, that's
Right.
it. Then. So we're coming to see your museum,
archive.
and we're going to
You
come
should do
and
that, and
learn
then
our picking.
Belstaff have a luxury archive as well, which is all there because they are really an old brand. So again, it's sort of similar, but we were doing loads of stuff because, like you say, where it's trended through. Because I think it's fascinating. All the stuff that we all used to wear as kids are now coming back, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
So
But it's
true.
also
What about
building
the
coming
UGG
isn't it?
archive? Is there an archive of
I wouldn't like to
a
see it. would
fleeced
you?
sheep
Let's be honest.
somewhere?
Let's not be honest. There's some archived old marketing material, which is very entertaining. Nice.
Right.
Which is quite, but back
Good.
in the old days of when it was, because it's an Australian guy who moved to America.
How old is it?
It's 40 years old.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
40 last year. But it was a men's footwear brand for 15 years.
Yeah.
So that was because it was about keeping your feet warm off after surfing. So very different. It was only became a women's wear brand at mid-90s. Really,
Also, there were slippers at the beginning, right?
It was the classic.
Yeah.
But when I was in was it Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, Santa somewhere office, they had this old material of, gnarly surfers with these, I mean, I don't want to say there was actual blood on it, but it literally looked as if it had been taken off a sheep unwillingly and strapped on their feet. And they were just waxing their boards with these crudely made...
It's funny we see the original prototypes of stuff, though. It's like the Hoka brands like that. It's like the original prototypes that they made literally were bits of foam, running down mountains and putting these big oversized... They literally look like, they kind of like some polystyrene packing strapped to their feet. But it's amazing when you see what, the ideas that come out of it and how it gets reshaped into
and polished
into something that's still lovely.
Well, on the polishing front, let's go and polish off some coffee outside. Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.